For today's video, I'll be showing you the fish that I personally keep in my 40-gallon community tank to offer some inspiration on how you can stock your tank of a similar size. While there are a lot of videos like this out there, I have noticed that a lot of people don't actually show you proof that they have the specific fish that they recommend in this size of tank, but you're going to see the exact fish I keep in my 40-gallon tank. This tank runs at 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and my tap water comes out with a pH of 6.4, a GH of 4 and a KH of 3. This tank does get a monthly water change of around 50%, so depending how long it's been since that last water change, those parameters can fluctuate slightly. First up are my 2 male honey gourami, which I originally added as centerpiece fish for this tank. Now these are great little fish, and it's actually my favourite species of fish in the hobby because they are very easy to care for, they are friendly with their tank mates and full of personality, but in my experience they are not the best fish for a centerpiece fish option that you want out and about a lot of the time. That's because they are from the anabanthoid family of fish, similar to bettas and paradise fish, so honey gourami do spend a lot of their time tucked away amongst plants and other hiding spots. When they do come out to explore though, they are very interesting to watch. They've evolved with modified ventral fins that work almost like little arms, and they'll go around the tank and feel different objects and play with each other and interact like humans do with our hands. On top of that, unlike some of the larger gourami species that can become aggressive, honey gourami are extremely calm and peaceful. I've never seen mine show aggression towards other fish, and I've seen them swim past tiny little baby shrimp countless times without even trying to eat them. For a peaceful 40-gallon community tank, these really are an excellent choice, and their small size also lets them work in smaller tanks, but I've always seen higher activity levels from them when there's at least one other honey gourami in the tank with them. Next up is my Siamese algae eater, and I only have one of them in this tank, but a lot of people do recommend you keep more than one if possible. This kind of has become the unofficial centerpiece fish simply because it's just so big compared to all of the other species in the tank. These are excellent little algae eaters, and I do often see mine nibbling on algae, but I haven't had any hair algae breakout since it was small, and some people do say they stop eating hair algae as they get bigger. But as a juvenile it was constantly eating my blackbeard algae in the tank. One of the best things about Siamese algae eaters is their behaviour because they get themselves into some really odd situations. I'm pretty sure it's because they are trying to get food that my shrimp have dragged off to other areas of the tank, but I've literally seen them pivoting vertical in my plants trying to find different types of food and stuff like that multiple times. Like my honey gourami, my Siamese algae eater also enjoys having hiding spots in the tank, and they do tend to shy away for large portions of the day too. But this one does go through phases where it just likes to be tucked away in the plant cover, and then it'll go through a period of high activity bursts and then just repeat this throughout the day. There are several similar looking species in the hobby which can be aggressive, but identifying a true Siamese algae eater is actually surprisingly easy when you know what to look for. Make sure that the horizontal stripe down its body continues all the way into its tail and doesn't stop at the base of the body. The dorsal fin on a true Siamese algae eater is also completely transparent with no coloration on it either. Provided that both of these are true, you are looking at a real Siamese algae eater, and personally I've never had any major problems with mine. That said, this one does occasionally bump my Corydoras off food if it wants the food instead, but I've never seen it do anything to any of the tank mates other than that. Next up are my neon tetras, which are easily one of the most popular fish in the hobby thanks to their beautiful colours, easy care and peaceful temperament. The downside of this popularity is that years of mass breeding have led to inbreeding issues which unfortunately have reduced the hardiness of many captive bred strains of neon tetra. This means that even if your water parameters are absolutely perfect, you still may lose a lot of these due to genetic issues. While I do enjoy watching my neon tetras and I am glad that I have added them as part of this tank, I do think that there are better options out there for beginners. And that brings me on to my cardinal tetras, which look very similar to neon tetras, but in my experience and the experience of a lot of other fish keepers, they tend to be far hardier. While the red on a neon tetra stops partway down their body to reveal a white belly, the cardinal tetra's red stripe runs the full length of the lower half of the fish. Now these do cost a little bit more compared to neon tetras, at least in my area, but their higher survival rate also balances that out, making them worth a slightly higher price tag. Behaviour wise, both species are very similar to each other and spend most of their time casually exploring the tank and only usually group up and shoal around if something went wrong and startled them. One thing that I have noticed is that both cardinal and neon tetras is that although they'll often swim around in open water, they do seem to appreciate having hiding spots nearby. This is especially true in this particular tank when my Harlequin rasboras and Corydoras start breeding and their energy levels go up and they are very active in the tank because it seems to startle my tetras and they go into the plant cover and hide. Next up are my Harlequin rasboras, and these little guys really are underrated fish. These are easy to find, very affordable, in my experience very hardy, and they are also simple to care for. I know their appearance isn't for everyone, but personally I do think they look great in a planted tank with some lush thick green plant cover behind them. These guys are also very fun to watch, especially during breeding season as their activity levels increase and the males will spar with each other for breeding rights and to maintain the dominance hierarchy. Compared to my tetras, my Harlequin rasboras tend to stick with their group more often, and every now and then they'll actually decide to shoal around the tank together. Unfortunately though, this isn't consistent enough to recommend them if you're specifically looking for a consistent shoaling species, but it is nice to watch them move as one in a group. Now these guys are social fish, so I would recommend keeping at least 10 in a 40-gallon tank, but I've seen people keep far more as well. Another advantage of Harlequin rasboras is that in this tank they are very confident swimmers, spending most of their time in the open areas of the tank, so you always have something to look at, and they are usually the first fish on any food I add to the tank. Next up are my chili rasboras, and unfortunately I don't have many of these left because their lifespan is usually only 2 to 3 years from what I can find online, and I had these in a different tank before I added them to this one. Now these are stunning little fish, but in a tank size of 40 gallons they really are small because they max out at around 1 inch in size or around 2.5 inches, so it can be difficult to spot them. On top of that, accidental mislabeling is also pretty common with these and other species of the Boraris genus, as 5 of the 6 known species look very similar to each other. I'm fairly certain I have some strawberry rasboras mixed in with my chili rasboras due to this. But these are a fantastic choice, especially for smaller tanks where they are considerably easy to see and won't blend in with the plants and hardscapes so easily. In my experience, they are very calm and peaceful, and I've never seen any of their tank mates in this setup bother them at all trying to eat them or anything like that. Most of the time they do just keep to themselves in the top right hand corners of the tank, but occasionally they will shoal together around the tank, but it's nowhere near as frequent as my Harlequin rasboras. Later this year I am actually thinking of removing them from this tank and moving them into a smaller setup because they are so challenging to see at times, and I want to put them in a smaller setup with the chili rasboras being a dedicated species. Next up are my Corydoras, and these are specifically the albino variety of Corydoras aeneas. Now mine are on the chunkiest side, especially the females because they're full of eggs due to it being breeding season right now, and I do think one of my Corys is deformed and has a weird arch in its back, changing its shape slightly. Now there are several different Corydoras aeneas varieties in the hobby, but the albino ones that I have and the bronze variety are easily the most common and affordable. That said, there is a huge range of other Corydoras species in the hobby too, and I'm personally going to be picking up some pygmy Corydoras soon for one of my other tanks because they are so cute. But as far as I can tell from what I've seen from other people online, it doesn't really matter which species of Corydoras you get, for the most part they act very similar to each other. These guys are bottom dwellers who help keep things tidy in your tank because they eat a lot of the leftover food that sinks to the substrate layer. Even to this day, some sources claim that Corydoras are good algae eaters, but in my opinion this is not true, and I'm not aware of a single species of the Corydoras genus that is not an omnivore or actively eats algae. Mine definitely prefer high protein foods, especially fluval bug bites or any type of frozen bloodworm. They will wolf them down, and I don't remember ever seeing them eat algae. But if you're looking something that's similar to a tiny little aquatic puppy, these guys really are for you. It did take a while for mine to warm up to me and realise that I was the source of food, so they will come up to the glass in the tank with their adorable little faces and try and guilt trip me into giving them treats, but I only give them bloodworm on a Sunday. One bonus to keeping Corydoras is how they dig and sift through the substrate looking for worms. This helps to stir up detritus and fish waste and other things, making it a lot easier for any filters in your tank to remove it and trap it in your mechanical filter media. On top of this, most varieties do stay relatively small, which makes them a great choice for a 40-gallon tank, letting you get a fair few of them in there because they are a social species. Next up are Medaka ricefish, and I have 2 black Medaka in this tank, and I moved them here from one of my other setups. I did originally have 3, but I gave one of the females to a friend who's actively trying to breed them, and I might give him these 2 as well because he has quite a large group of this strain of Medaka in one of his tanks now. Medaka come in a huge range of colours, but in my experience most of these are in Japan and there's over 450 over there, but they are slowly making their way over to the west and more rarer varieties are becoming available. In my experience, Medaka are extremely hardy and easy to keep, especially if you're brand new to the hobby, and on top of that, a big selling point is that they don't need a heater in their tank. I keep some of my Medaka in room temperature tanks to help keep energy costs down, and they drop to 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, and I know some friends who've kept them even lower than that without issue. The vast majority of my Medaka are very peaceful and leave everything in their tank alone, but there is this one guy who for whatever reason really doesn't like zebra danios. Half of the time he completely ignores them, and the other half of the time he's decided he cannot tolerate zebra danios, but for whatever reason he ignores all of the other fish species in the tank and only ever chases the zebra danio. Overall though, Medaka are a fantastic fish, but I would recommend keeping more than 2 if you can, because these are social, and that's why I'm thinking of giving these 2 to my friend who is breeding the black Medaka line in one of his tanks. Next up are my zebra danios, and again this is another fish that doesn't need a heater. I've kept mine as low as 18 degrees Celsius and 64 degrees Fahrenheit without issue. These 2 are survivors from one of my other tanks that had a bit of a nightmare, and while these are social fish and I wish I could get a few more, it is tricky to find them here in the UK right now. That's because they've been added to the controlled species list, and while they're not actually banned, getting healthy stock is difficult. I originally got these 2 as a group of 8 from a chain store here in the United Kingdom, and within a couple of weeks I only had these 2 left. I don't want to risk bringing home another batch from a chain store and facing the same problems or potentially introducing disease or something like that, even though I would quarantine them before putting them in here, so for now I'm just keeping these 2. It is also worth noting that while I have seen some people report that zebra danios can be extremely hardy fish, that has not been my personal experience. Tiny Menagerie also talks about this in her care guide for her zebra danios, saying that they are often considered to be extremely hardy, but poor breeding conditions, at least for some lines of zebra danio, has taken its toll. If somewhere like Horizon Aquatics, who I completely trust, get healthy zebra danios in stock, I would definitely get more of these, but one of my friends is still in the process of setting up his breeding tank for his zebra danio, so I will probably give these away later in the year too. Next up are my Neocaridina shrimp, and I have 3 varieties in this tank: my regular red cherry shrimp, along with some yellow neos and orange Neocaridina morphs. Now these have all been in this tank for well over a year now, and to date there's only a handful of wild type baby shrimp in the tank, and the majority of them tend to keep their strong coloration from their parents. In my experience, provided you're using similar tank mates to myself, Neocaridina shrimp are an excellent addition to a 40-gallon community tank. Not only will they eat a lot of soft algae types, but they also help to keep things clean by eating leftover food and decaying plant matter. Even low-grade cherry shrimp bring some nice pops of colour to the tank, and these are also very easy to find and very affordable. But I know that a lot of beginners attempted to go straight for the more expensive high-grade Neocaridina shrimp, but for a tank of this size I don't really see the point because they're only about an inch or 2.5 centimeters long, maybe a little bit bigger, so in a 40-gallon tank it really doesn't make that much of a difference compared to a smaller nano tank where you can really get in and see a good look of the higher grade, more expensive shrimp. So due to that, personally, if you are specifically looking to stock a 40-gallon tank or larger with Neocarid shrimp, I just go with mid or even low grade shrimp because they are a lot cheaper and they still add pops of colour. Next up are my Ormano shrimp, and these are probably the best algae eater that I've ever kept myself. I'm pretty sure that I still have 6 of them in here, and they do an excellent job of managing algae, leftover food and decaying plant matter, especially when being backed up by shrimp, snails and my Siamese algae eater. Unlike some other Caridina species, Ormano shrimp are very hardy and easy to care for, making them a great entry-level shrimp for someone newer to the shrimp side of the hobby, and like I said, they are an excellent algae eater. Finally, I have neurite snails in here, specifically the smaller horned neurite snail variety. But in a 40-gallon tank like this one, you could easily keep a few of the larger varieties like the zebra neurite or the red onion neurite or the military helmet neurite or something like that. These smaller horned neurites that I keep are around 1/3 of the size of those. These snails help to manage algae, leftover food and decaying plant matter, and are just generally a great part of a cleanup crew to have. But with this specific tank, I do think it'd be just as clean without them because I have so many Neocaridina shrimp, Ormano shrimp and the Siamese algae eater in here. One big advantage of neurite snails is that most varieties will lay eggs in fresh water, but those eggs won't hatch, so you're not going to have an overpopulation problem with your snails. And like I said back at the beginning, I have a pH of 6.4, a GH of 4 and a KH of 3 directly out of my tap, and this tank usually stays around that. While I have had some people ask if I've noticed any problems with the snails maintaining their shells due to a low level of calcium in my water, I haven't had any issues, and I've had some of these in here for over 18 months now. But on the flip side of that, one of the most common criticisms of neurite snails is that their eggs can be laid on the hardscape, and because they don't hatch, they can calcify in place and catch the eye. Thankfully, with my softer, more acidic water, it dissolves the eggs into the water column as a source of calcium to try and balance the tank, so there's no real build-up of their eggs over time, so it doesn't become an issue in softer water parameters like mine. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching and good luck with your 40-gallon tanks.